It feels like every other day is Kent State, and we're the people watching from the safety of the gate, muttering repeatedly, we're gonna be okay. But little did we know our fate was forged and on its way. Little did we know our last names were on a collar with a binary chain. Little did we know they're only working through the A's. So at most we've got a couple days of listening to all those precious freedoms fade away, of watching all your neighbors learn in real time how they never really had them anyway. Watching as we occupy ourselves, and you can try to occupy yourself, but eventually you're gonna have to reckon the embarrassment of seeing that the terrorists were speaking perfect English and they look just like yourselves. And you could smell a power trip distinctly American. You could hear the hate in their voices so well. You recognized the boots when they pressed into your face and the sweet familiar taste of the composite shell.
We're fucked.
And suddenly the film decides to pause itself. Suddenly the animals that wither in your cage would sooner claw themselves. Suddenly we start to see a fascist is a fascist and it doesn't fucking matter what they call themselves. Suddenly we start to see their colors are irrelevant. Suddenly the film is turning black and white and all the red and blue feels just as far away and long ago as civil rights. And suddenly it's Groundhog Day on the Kent State firing line. And you're a student holding up a picket sign. You're the dying breed before a generation born with all its senses in the sand unless it's dinner time. A generation undereducated in the hopes that their capacity for questioning their station might be minimized. A generation dancing to the same song witnessed by a million eyes. A generation struggling to save itself when all our means to aid ourselves were weaponized. Poverty was branded on our skin and we were tased or made to step aside. Kettled into gutters and the ruling classes laughing as they pass us by. A ruling class of warped, perverted sadists so empowered by our capitalist system their humanity's impossible to recognize. So fattened off our taxes and our blood and our misfortune that they'll never die. They'll be comfy somewhere else that Bezos terraformed and colonized when Earth is sunken under waves of human refuse and we all get left behind, terrified. Our first mistake was standing by and watching human suffering incentivized. The last of our mistakes was probably painted on a sign at Kent State that never made it past the censor's eyes. Shouted down to ashes under angry crowds of Semper Fi. When it's on your block, your only option might be frozen to the spot and truly petrified. Like you heard the first shot at Kent State and it went through your sign and right into somebody's side. And now we'll all go down in history as police-assisted suicides. So tell the founding fathers that we sing the songs of patricide, chanted out in triplicate, unanimously ratified. And we'll all go down in history as police-assisted suicides.
Who are these people? 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 Who are these people?
I watched a man decide to stand up for us, and I watched them take him away. So I had to break down your respect for the process, but the process won't be saved. Hi, I'm Nancy, and I love ice cream.
I enjoy it.
But not as much as watching people forced out of their homes.
I like it better than anything else.
Watching people forced out in the streets to live alone, and knowing that I own every homeless set of bones.
I don't know why, but it seems to agree with me. I have a lot of energy.
It's all more support from my hideous and ill-gotten throne, the weight of which is too much for you to bear alone. Which is why you ended up threadbare alone, kicked off your benefits and left to your own. The diner that you worked at was told it could open its doors, but there's no clientele, and it's probably just as well, because half of the staff didn't last, so they can't come to work anymore. You can't expect a corpse to pull itself through the door to flip omelets for $8 an hour anymore. Make your own food, clean your own floors, fake your own news, fill a whole morgue. Get a film crew out front, but don't let them in the doors. frontline heroes, America's soldiers, you know the score. Joe knows the score. I watched a man decide to stand up for us, and I watched them take him away. So I had to break down your respect for the process, but the process won't be saved.
Who are these people?
Stop saying the election is so goddamn important and start telling Joe he needs to rein in his supporters. Oh, that's right. Joe can't even rein in his tongue behind his resin molars. Pardon me for asking for some faculties from someone who is vying to control us. The man is not quite yet speechless, but you can bet he's soulless. And if you think he can stop the greatest threat that's ever held a public office, you might be Joe's equal in the ignorance department. But I can guarantee you we will finish what we started. A rabid coalition of activists and politicians, sex workers, educators, artists. Those of us who followed Bernie so close and fell the farthest. Who will not falter until all of us are cared for, regardless of whether it would turn a profit. Now I am not a leader or a teacher or a prophet, but I am here to proudly say today is the day I start campaigning for the role of Speaker of the House that we will build from the bones of the old Congress. And when I say bones, I do not mean framework or stones, I mean literally bones of the old guard keeping us from progress. Tonight's the last dawn before things get their darkest. Tonight's the last dawn before things get their darkest.
Who are these people?
The calm before the storm, the calm before the harvest. Oh, that's right. Oh, that's right.
Who are these people?
Tonight's the last dawn before things get their darkest. Fate demanded I be singer of a new ballad about the candidate you wanted like a finger in your fruit salad, but were made to choke down. And never mind he didn't have supporters on the ground. Never mind a website that gave volunteers the runaround, and a platform, a policy that followed Biden's lead and didn't make a fucking sound. And then he takes the crown. Now that's ascension into power by immaculate election, cause no one really wanted it and no one should have trusted it. But don't you try to question it, cause Joe is not a fan of questions, but Joe is a fan of pointing fingers right in people's faces. Or if they're not in public spaces, Joe will try to poke a finger everywhere I won't mention. Joe's soul is molded and beholden more to power than the list of fucking speakers at the DNC convention, who gave us all a show of keeping AOC at bay, just so everyone can say they tried to censor her dissension. But if you still believe the progressives we've elected give a shit if we're protected, there's a bridge I'd like to sell you in a parallel dimension. You know they're just tech savvier with media relations, propagandist Instagram and public obfuscation. Better suited to assure you that they're here to have a conversation. Better suited to assure you they aren't actively supporting your eviction and your slide into starvation. Better suited to assure you they can tweet about your needs and offer hope and motivation while you drift into the weeds, but they partnered with the moccasins and gators and the reeds. They damn sure get a portion of our meat. So, love me or leave me or mislead me to decree. Honey, you won't want to hear it, so I'll try to say it sweet. The squad are not your buddies, they are simply more discreet. The GOP will kill you on your feet. Dems and fake progressives do it in your sleep. Anyone can recognize a nation's needs and put it in a tweet. But coming from a leader in a seat of power really shows they know they're obsolete. GOP will kill you on your feet. Dems and fake progressives do it in your sleep. The squad are not your buddies, they are simply more discreet. You won't want to hear it, so I'll try to say it sweet. I think I liked it better being blind
when I couldn't read between the lines, and when I couldn't see the cracks in the structure that lay bare before me the whole time. I think I liked it better back when I suspended disbelief and swallowed pride. I thought I knew the difference in the red from the blue, but they both bleed us so dry. They both bleed us so dry.
My favorite songs don't hit the same way. I get to the end of a 4-minute track and I'm only looking back thinking, what did they actually say? So I try to sit down with my wife and watch TV, but I just see propaganda elevating the police in the simplest of sitcom banter, and tiny little altars full of offerings to corporate masters in every well-planned wide pan shot of the name brand stocking up the pantry. Pull back one long tracking shot out to the garage to the logo on the Camry. Nice tight shot of the Camry. Close-up view of the Camry, slow pan up on the Camry, long slow zoom to the unmoving human who is up in the front with the tube pumping fumes to him straight from the back of the Camry. Ashamed he just could not provide for himself, let alone for his family. It's a blue pill mindset that spent 2020 making dance beats.
I think I liked it better being blind, when I couldn't read between the lines, and when I couldn't see the cracks in the structure that lay bare before me the whole time. I think I liked it better back when I suspended disbelief and swallowed pride, and thought I knew the difference in the red from the blue, but they both bleed us so dry. They both bleed us so dry.
Ignorance is bliss, which explains why a lot of us are so fucking happy. Quick to take the trip for all its trappings. Never one to ask what's up, what's going on, or God forbid what's happening. A lot of us would strap into the ride and then spit right in the eye of the guy whose job it is to snap your fastenings. But maybe we're all born with that capacity. Maybe each of us comes standard with humor, compassion, malice, and audacity. Some of us are blind to the system, but some see it fine and say this is how it has to be. Some of us can stare wide-eyed at a nationwide human catastrophe and only offer platitudes and recipes. And I wish that I could tell myself that nothing's worth obsessing past my everyday necessities. I wish that I could cry fake news over anything that threatened me, tune out our abuses and consume a little levity. Wish that I could offer up my son a smoother destiny. Wish I had some better lessons for how best to answer questions for the things I've been perpetually questioning. But I'm too busy looking at our leaders, wondering what I might be missing from their messaging. Trying to find the reasoning to let 250,000 people meet an early reckoning. And even though I know the truth, it's hard to swallow something that's so literally sickening. Hope is ever dwindling, COVID ever beckoning. Winter slows your breathing, but your pulse is ever quickening. Even though I know the truth, it's hard to keep listening. I'm done with my epiphany, my innocence is blistering. I'd like to think I'd taste the earth before I'd ever kiss the ring. Hard to speak the truth and harder still to keep listening.
Sometimes I think I miss being blind, when I couldn't read between the lines, and when I couldn't see the cracks in the structure that lay bare before me the whole time. I think I liked it better back when I suspended disbelief and swallowed pride. Thought I knew the difference in the red from the blue, but they both bleed us so dry. Both bleed us so dry. Both bleed us so dry. They both bleed us so dry.
No, Indy Left, what is happening here?
To check out IndependentLeft.news.
The Indie News Network.
Indie Left News.
Oh, hey, Indie Left.
IndependentLeft.news. Great work.
Indie Left News.
IndependentLeft.news.
Independent Left News.
Shout out to Independent Left News. Shout out.
Oh, what's up, Independent Left?
Friend show.
Thank you, IndependentLeft.news.
INN, Indy, you're wonderful.
I think Indy was onto something.
Independent News Network, Indie News.
Yeah.
What's up, Indy, over on Rockfin?
Independent News Network, also known as INN.
Indie Left News.
I don't know if I would have made it through that 3 weeks without Indy, honestly.
No, I was just going to ask Indy.
A huge thank you and shout out to Indy Left.
No, you know what we're doing? We're world building, Indy.
Indie Left News.
You were doing the INN recruiting.
Indie News.
Independent Left News.
Shout out to Independent Left News.
Check out Independent Left News.
At Kennedy News.
I see Indy's in the chat. Hi, Indy. Okay.
Who are these people?
Did it work? It worked. Okay, we made the buttons work. Hi, everybody. We're here. Yes, this is Indy. Whoa. I got this guy Reef sitting next to me. I got to turn off the QR code for a second so they can see your butt. Look at that wonderful facial lettuce coming all the way halfway down his chest. That's Reef. I'm Indy. This is How Do We Miss That? For the 111th time. Holy moly. Yes. Love Sabi. Kime Adubai. I'm butchering your name, but welcome to INN, man. I'm so glad that you found us today on Twitter and showed up tonight to listen and watch. And we're gonna rage, man. Yeah, we're gonna do it live. We're gonna sound a little bit like Richie, I think, a little bit, but we're gonna. This is a bit of a different show. We actually read like full articles, so I'm gonna make that a selling point now. On How Do We Miss That? We read the articles in full and let people actually decide for themselves. A lot of stories, a lot of shows they don't.
Wake up, asshole.
That guy. Yeah, hi. All right, Go starts over on Rumble. We're live on Rumble. Anna Maris is live on Rockfin, and she said that the dryer just ate her defund the Pentagon tank. It's fired. Boo. Okay, that's terrible. So we are live on YouTube, Rockfin, Rumble, Twitch, Twitter, everywhere. All right. Holy crap. Is there any news? Is anything happening in the world right now, Reef?
Nah, I don't think so.
All right, before we
cat videos.
Yeah, right? Well, that's what we're gonna do after this. We're gonna watch some pet videos and some fun mind erasing shit. But before we do that, we're gonna get into it. And holy crap, there's a lot to get into. Yeah. College kids, I love you. Oh my God, I love you, college kids. So first of all, we're gonna talk about college kids. You know, I didn't want to make this a whole Israel-Palestine issue, but these sons of bitches do this to me every week. I don't want to have to cover this all like this, all the time. But there's so many angles, and it's being poorly covered, and in some places, well covered, and they need to be amplified and shouted out, and that's what we do here. We support independent media. All right, we love independent media. Yeah. We are independent media, and we became the media that we wanted to see. And we encourage everybody to do that. Be the media you want to see, because the stuff that's being paid for is propaganda and bullshit. We'll start right there. All right. We are founding members of INN. We are live on all the INN channels, as well as on my channels, Indie at INN or Indie Media Today or Indie Left Media, wherever you find all the different titles. We are putting together a fundraiser for our friend Jett. so that he could get some new equipment. These are all the people that have already donated, and they keep donating, some of them, and they're wonderful repeat donors. That's why you don't see the list necessarily growing. But we're getting donations every week, and we love you for it. We deeply, deeply appreciate it. There's a few ways to donate there on the screen. We need all the help we can get right now. Independent media is under assault. And these few channels that we're finding, and what we do is we curate. What we try to find is the best and most honest and raw stories of independent media to bring it right to you again and let you decide for yourself. Because
honest
I think a lot of people are trying to tell you kind of what to think and how to think and shape that. I'm just telling you from my perspective and how I'm seeing it. Here's what I see, and maybe you see it the same way, and let's talk about it. So, holy crap.
Make your own conclusions.
Make your own decisions. All right, so our first story is the wonderful Laura Kay from Normal Island News, friend of the show. We seem to be doing one of her stories every week, and we could start this week with a little bit of levity, only because this is in such praise of the American students, American university students arrested for embarrassing Israel. This is definitely not cancel culture. Now, this entire article is written completely with tongue-in-cheek, and I adore Laura Kay for it. I don't know how she manages to do this every single day or a few times a week. If you can subscribe to her, Normal Island News, normalisland.co.uk. Look her up. She's on Facebook. She's on Twitter. She's great. Her latest, and I love reading her articles. In super exciting news, the people who have unwaveringly backed Israel's genocide from the start have proven they're on the right side of history by sending masked cops to arrest students and professors who were committing the terrorist act of peaceful protest. Obviously, brutal crackdowns on academia are only bad when Iran or China do them, and in this case, should be applauded. If you're unclear of why this is happening, Benjamin Netanyahu made a totally sane speech demanding the U.S. crackdown on peaceful protests that he doesn't like. Netanyahu's request came just days after Israel told the U.S. to stop meddling in its internal affairs. Personally, I think it's brilliant.
Israel?
Yeah. Personally, I think it's brilliant that the U.S. Constitution only applies until the president of a foreign country with a powerful lobbying group decides it's inconvenient. At that point, you can shove your First Amendment up your ass, and that's American for arse, because she's British. And shout out to Laura for that.
British.
I think at one point I tried to maybe do this in the Queen's English, and it was really awful. So I'm abandoning that and doing it in my own voice. Not long ago, universities were talking about how important free speech on campus is, even if it's speech normal people dislike. Emory University in Atlanta, we're going to talk about them later, ignored these free speech values because they were intended to ensure Ben Shapiro would not be canceled before he could explain why he hated the Barbie movie so much. Now that Ben has had his rant, free speech doesn't matter anymore. Emory University sent armed enforcers into campus to fire rubber bullets and tear gas at the scariest people in America. The decision presumably had the approval of the U.S. president, who had spent the week smearing the protesters as anti-Semites, naturally.
Yeah, antiseptics.
Right. This is the standard tactic to delegitimize critics of Israel. I understand the president is now considering whether to stand by his original position or pretend he was on the students' side all along. Given he tried to shake hands with a ghost recently, anything's possible with this man.
Recently? Doesn't he do that every week?
Well, that's what she means recently. But among Emory's targets was Noel McAfee, chair of the university's philosophy department, who armed cops
Not
heroically...
to be confused with the poop through a hammock McAfee.
No, not John McAfee. I don't believe she's any relation, but he's the chair of the philosophy department who armed cops heroically captured without taking casualties. Heroically. Honestly, these men are as brave as the IDF soldiers who try on women's underwear before setting their houses on fire. And I wish that was a joke.
Yep.
Footage clearly showed the unarmed, middle-aged white woman being cuffed by a masked man was Hamas. Yes, in the
Hamas.
Bakakalava. Balaclava.
Balaclava. Fucking put it on, man. You look fucking scary, man.
You'll be relieved to hear that these super brave cops felt. I'm sorry to make levity of this, but we have to laugh a little bit. And believe me, we're gonna get heavy, and I will probably end up crying by the end of tonight. But
you get hung if you don't have gallows humor.
She breaks me, and I love her. And thank you, Laura, for this. You'll be relieved to hear that 3 super brave cops felt the need to tase a student who they had pinned down and cuffed. Then they knelt on his back. Ordinarily, they would have knelt on his throat, but they wanted to show restraint to make it clear that they're the good guys. If you know anything about history, you know cops who are violent towards students protesting war are always on the right side of it.
Mm-hmm.
A total of 93 thought criminals were taken.
Germany.
Yes, exactly. A total of 93 thought criminals were taken hostage at the Emory crackdown, presumably to be re-educated in Room 101. Reassuringly, many of the hostages were taken away in unmarked vans, so no one has a clue what's happening to them. Basically, they're getting
the hostages.
Yep. That's brutal. Oh.
It is, isn't it?
Basically, they're getting the Palestine treatment, but we in the media will ignore it because they're all terrorists or something. Other universities across the U.S. have also taken their fair share of hostages. Of course, it's hoped that mass arrests, along with the TikTok ban, will endear young people to Israel and help them realize that genocide is just as woke as they are. If not, their lives will be destroyed because it's only what they deserve. Any students or professors who have evaded capture can stop being smug because Israelis say they will use facial recognition technology to ensure that they're unemployable, which I'm sure you agree is a brilliant justification for the existence of facial recognition technology. I bet you're super comfortable with cameras scanning your face without your consent now, aren't you? Israel's sack anyone who disagrees with us machine is about to get at least 1,000% more efficient. What do you mean?
I'd rather have facial recognition used in my workplace to see if I'm like effectively happy enough for capitalistic usage. You know?
Well, wait a
minute.
minute.
If I'm sad, it electroshocks me and wakes me up again. I feel happy. You know?
Yeah, sure. That's your Apple Model 3 slave
like
collar,
a much better
right?
idea.
Is that your Model 3 slave collar from Jesse Jett?
At least Model 3. If you're still wearing a Model 3 slave collar, what are you?
Well, it does offer more movement than the Tesla X Elite. I mean, yeah. So, what do you mean this sounds like one of those terrifying dystopias science fiction warned us about? All you have to do is comply with the death cult, and it will spare you.
Yeah.
Laura.
Makes total sense.
Bravo, Laura. Once again, you break me, and I love you, and my goodness. Yeah. So there's that. We can start there with Laura because it's not going to get any prettier than that, folks. Again, welcome to everybody who's here. How do we miss that? Is live every Sunday night, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific on INN, Indie News Network, indienews.network. Go subscribe, support, share all the links. You got YouTube, you got all the social media, you got Rumble, you got Rockfin, ad-free over on Rockfin. Okay, so we've got next, holy crap, now we're going to get into the schools, but from a different kind of angle, because I wanted to specifically look at it from an angle, which is Sam Husseini, Indie Media Award Honoree 2023 class. Thank you. Did Columbia University violate the First Amendment? My guess is yes.
I'm going to go with yes.
I'm going to go with yes. But he says that it's commonly argued that private groups can't break the First Amendment, but there's an exception if there's entanglement, quote unquote, between the private entity and the government, and it looks like there was. So what's going on here? Of course, the traditional Dobke folk dance, right? Okay, so defending rights and dissent in their recent letter to Colombia President Minouche Shafik, which has lots of good information, stated, although Columbia University is a private institution not governed by the First Amendment, the role of state actors, in this case members of Congress, in instigating the action would raise serious First Amendment concerns, unquote. This might seem odd to people. I didn't really think about it myself. Many people think that private groups can disregard the First Amendment, which only limits government action. But, however, defending rights and dissent is perfectly correct in noting that this case may be different. He says, the group adds that, quote, even if the First Amendment could not be found to apply, it would still be a serious breach of norms of academic freedom. Unquote, of course. But if you examine, as defending rights and dissent indicates, the interaction between Shafik and members of Congress, it could be worse. Just before she called the police on student protesters, it certainly appears that Shafik got her marching orders from the government at the congressional hearings. Former head of the ACLU, Nadine Strawson, told me in an interview in 2021, thank goodness for Sam Husseini, while discussing big tech platforms and the First Amendment, quote, even private sector actors are directly bound by constitutional norms, including the First Amendment free speech guarantee, if you can show that there is legal term to describe this is called entanglement, sufficient entanglement between the government officials and the nominally private sector actors, that if they're essentially conspiring with the government and doing the government's bidding, the government can't do an end run around its own constitutional obligations that way. Really important connotation right there. So Sam is saying, thus the argument could be made that Shafik was effectively coerced by Congress and allowed Columbia to be entangled with the U.S. government doing its bidding by calling the police on the students.
Yep.
And it should be noted that Shafik's background is not what one might expect from a university president. The short backgrounder from Max Blumenthal, who notes that she's on the board of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and, quote, owes her entire career to the transatlantic oligarchy and has no space in which to defy it, unquote. Kind of like the woman who took over at NPR, too. It's like there's been a corporate takeover of all the major academic institutions and thought.
There's a revolving door between big business, politics, and media.
Well,
I mean, and the deep state. That's how it works.
Sure, but
no.
Also Yale economics professor Ahmed Mushik Mubarak notes that she only has one well-cited publication in her life. Goodness. And accuses her of effectively stealing it from a junior author. Going to the protest at George Washington University last night, which Sam did, one thing that struck me was how many of the students were wearing masks or using a keffiyeh to cover their faces. Or a souk. Some have claimed it's a COVID thing, but no, it's clearly largely so they don't get exposed and get doxxed by pro-Israeli groups on campus and potentially have their
facial recognition doesn't end their career. The fact that can happen is bullshit already.
Right.
But then they're going to use the fact that anyway, no one was upset at people in China doing it during the Hong Kong vote, but now, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Independent journalist Daniel Lazar gives a good breakdown of the proximate causes of entanglement or coercion that may show a violation of the First Amendment. His quote is, Columbia President Shafik was testifying at a congressional hearing in Washington. The former Bank of England deputy governor twisted nervously in her seat as a succession of right-wing Republicans denounced a volcano of anti-Semitism that is supposedly erupting on college campuses and demanded to know what she was going to do about it. A cross-examination by Lisa...
volcanoes.
Right? And a cross-examination by Lisa McLean, an arch-conservative from the rural fringes of northern Detroit, was typical. What's your definition of anti-Semitism? Remember, folks, I'm Jewish. This is all nonsense. It's the season narrative, okay? And it's to paint everybody who disagrees with their narrative as anti-Semitic, which is not the case. This is anti-murdering children with U.S. bombs and sending them the money to buy them on top of it. What the hell are we doing? Quote, Shafiq, for me, personally, any discrimination against people for their Jewish faith is anti-Semitism. Pointing out that she had established a university task force to investigate it, McLean asked if members agreed. I'm pretty sure they would share that same definition, she said, looking more and more uneasy. And then the Michigan Republicans zeroed in for the kill. And then here we go. And are the mobs shouting from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, or long live the Intifada? Are those anti-Semitic comments? Well, if they watched INN News, we would know all about that first phrase and how that is a cry for freedom. Reef and Colin covered that very well on INN News, and I'm sure in the link in the description at some point, and I'm sure in the chat, maybe he'll drop that link for the folks to be able to watch that later on. But he says, that's a great question that I didn't get to ask. So let me repeat, are those anti-Semitic statements, yes or no? It's not how you feel. It's, well, I hear them as such. Some people don't. Was that yes? Was that yes? So they're trying to pin her down and get her to admit something so that they can then paint her as also anti-Semitic because she is accepting of other people's views about what those phrases mean. And she's at least willing to have a conversation about them and not smear them as antiseptic, as Reef likes to call them. Yep. So Shafiq says it's because it's a difficult issue. Some people define it as anti-Semitic. Other people do not. Correct. Like many Torah Jews and anti-Zionist Jews that understand that the backlash upon all Jews is going to be so much worse and is already so much worse. And we begged them and warned them against doing this the entire time. And it's just not only that, but they're continuing to move and do more. Just wonderful. So after hemming and hawing, Shafiq finally gave in. Such slogans, she conceded, were indeed beyond the pale. So yes, you do agree that these are anti-Semitic behavior and there should be some consequences to that anti-Semitic behavior. We're in agreement, yes? Yes, she replied. She finally got in line and she finally got the message, apparently. Gross. She had gotten her marching orders. Returning to New York, she called the police less than 24 hours later and requested them to clear the field. More than 100 students were arrested on trespassing charges and hit with academic suspensions. Joe Biden, among others, issued a statement in support. Of course he did, fucking scumbag. Piece of shit.
Joseph.
Okay. What he said was, the ancient story of persecution against Jews in the Haggadah on Passover also reminds us that we must speak out against our alarming surge of anti-Semitism in our schools, communities, and online. Silence is complicity. Even in recent days, we've seen harassment and calls for violence against Jews. This is blatant anti-Semitism, and it's reprehensible and dangerous. And it has absolutely no place on college campuses or anywhere in our country. Except that's not what's fucking happening, Joe.
You know the thing.
Piece of shit. This is all a lie being spun. Stop bombing children and the kids will go home. Stop bombing children and the kids will fucking go home. Oh yeah, and stop making deals with Israel and the people who bombed children for 6 months unabated. 7 months, sorry.
Yeah.
Further, and most recently, you had House Speaker Mike Johnson, of course, go to Colombia and make further demands. He also made baseless claims about Hamas slaughtering babies on October 7th, which of course have been debunked regularly, and the people who recanted their stories, something several outlets have debunked in detail, and Sam, of course, called back in October. Okay, Israel falsely claimed the Hamas slaughter babies, so it could actually slaughter babies, and that is reality. You can take me down if you like. I don't give a crap, because we're live on Rockfin and Rumble. You better find us over there if they decide that what we said is not cool. But Sam's saying that here. Then we also have, once again, later on in the week, follow up on that article. A few additional notes after writing that. Yes, bad cookies, but Republicans, Indy, thank you. That is correct. But you know what? But the Republicans are just as guilty in all of this. They're just as complicit. They're right on board with all this shit. All right. Few additional notes following up, which I wrote. It's commonly argued that private groups cannot break the First Amendment, but there's an exception if there's the entanglement, right? It looks like there was. So what do we mean? This was the other article that he had written, and I love Sam. Shout out to Sam. Sam is doing yeoman's work in the White House press room, in the State Department press rooms, on Substack. If you can support him, even by subscribing, Husseini.substack.com, Husseini, 25-year independent journalist, fucking phenomenal guy, absolutely phenomenal. All right, we don't always have to agree with everyone, but understand where they're coming from and understand that they have only incentive to bring the truth and to expose the corruption and the lies. All right?
Coming to a Substack newsletter near you.
Yeah, so will she at some point. I guarantee it. So, Empire swallows everything. Oh, so it looks like there was. So Empire swallows everything. It weaponizes everything, from human rights to feminism to biomedical research to the university. Columbia calling on the police effectively paved the way for other universities to do so, most notably the University of Texas, which is public, and Emory, which has extensive ties to the CDC with government funding. Therefore, they are an extension of the government in a lot of ways. And I brought some footage, so we're going to watch some. So Sam says, as I saw footage, videos of security forces. Sorry?
As I saw? There you go.
As I saw. Am I slurring? That's what happens when you get out.
A little bit.
No, we don't do that. Shh.
So
we're in a legal state. We're in a legal state. I'm an adult.
All
right. I like ice cream. If you listen to the tracks beforehand, we played Speaker of the House. Anyway, and that was on Friday night too. Friday night Jesse show, man, Jesse Clip show. That is a blast. Everybody should show up and watch that. It's just a chill time. All right, so as I saw videos of security forces brutally throwing down students, media workers, and even professors to the ground, I was reminded of Karl Marx's adage, quote, "When the train of history hits a curve, the intellectuals fall off." The video above is a manifestation of the fascist underbelly of U.S. society, usually unseen or ignored by many liberals, or encouraged because scratch your liberal and we know what happens. Many U.S. police forces have received training from Israel. See Jewish Voice for Peace report, Deadly Exchange, the dangerous consequence of American law enforcement trainings in Israel. I believe you've covered some of that on INN News as well, too, haven't you, Reef?
I believe so.
Okay, and I think we've covered it. We've covered it in the past here as well. Vanessa McCrae, I don't know who Vanessa McCrae is, reports that, quote, in an overwhelming vote Friday afternoon, the Faculty Senate for Emory University's College of Arts and Sciences decided to hold a college-wide no-confidence vote in President Gregory Fenves. Now you've got some serious shit going on. Now you've got the faculty revolting against the university administration. Reader M. Miller makes several great points, including, quote, I wonder if government entanglement with a private entity, in this case Columbia University, also ensues from grant support, in which case there are more strands to the web. Yep. So any university that's getting government grant funding would then be subject to First Amendment enforcement. All right. Elizabeth Ferrari notes that the government pressuring of the government pressuring of President Shafiq extended beyond congressional hearings and included statements on Twitter, of course, by the douchebag Arkansas Senator Tom Cotton. Quote, the nation pogroms at Columbia.
Sounds like a fucking cartoon that Marlboro designed.
The nation pogrom. Okay, again, quote, the nation pogroms at Columbia have to stop today, which don't exist, before our Jewish brethren sit for Passover Seder tonight. Except they held one outside at the thing and police arrested them. And we're going to show that too. If Eric Adams won't send the NYPD and Kathy Hochul won't send the National Guard, Joe Biden has a duty to take charge and break up these blobs.
Right. Pepper spray those kids.
Fuck Tom Cotton so bad. All right. Which, of course, was ridiculous, least of all because the student protests had tons of Jewish students and had Seders, but yet he persisted, just like Elizabeth Warren. Joe Biden has a duty to protect Jewish students on campuses like Columbia and NYU from what are nation pogroms. Okay, that is clearly a talking point that we know exactly who that's coming from because we called that shit out. All right? That's Frank Luntz. All right? Who went to Israel and gave them talking points and fed them to Republican senators as well. These are coming directly from AIPAC. By the way. Fuck you, Tom Cotton. You're a traitor to the United States. And you fought for this country, and it's a disgrace. Now, per M. Miller's comments, Speaker Mike Johnson threatened Columbia's federal funding.
Yep.
Quote, today I saw firsthand the radical mob, quote unquote, that is allowed to run amok on campus, spouting anti-Semitism and threatening Jewish students, which they haven't, as we saw by the woman standing in the middle of Yale University screaming, I'm a Jew, and nobody gave a flying fuck.
I mean, it's a great Halloween costume, though, if you need one last minute.
All right. If universities don't get it under control, it'll escalate. Taxpayer dollars should not be going to institutions that allow this chaos. Taxpayer dollars should not be going to institutions that have billion-dollar endowments either. Mikey. As did Rep. Elise Stefanik, another AIPAC bought and paid for representative. She's notably on the House Committee on Education and the Workforce and on subcommittees on higher education, workforce investment, and workforce protections. What a joke. She's also on House Armed Services Committee, the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, and particularly ironically, the Select Subcommittee on the Weaponization of the Federal Government. Yes, she knows exactly how to do that, doesn't she? Because I believe, oh no, she's not the one that was a CIA agent. That was somebody else that she actually beat a CIA agent to win her seat, if I remember correctly. I looked into her.
I mean, she might have just joined them. That's that old adage. Can't beat them.
She says that she demanded action. She's from upstate New York, I believe, from Education Secretary Cardona, who's in enough heat on his own. DOJ Attorney General Garland, fuck him for not dropping the charges against Julian Assange. Drop the charges, free Julian Assange. And Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas, again, who just had an impeachment thing dropped against him, but he was in some heat, to address the out-of-control anti-Semitic takeover of Columbia. No, it is... Well, this is their joke, because they've passed a bill that says anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism, so automatically any Jews that are standing up against this are anti-Semites themselves, which is hilarious because Palestinian people are Semites, and these are the most anti-Semitic motherfuckers on the planet, other than the Israeli government and the Likud party, and we're going to let Abby Martin finish us out talking about that. She wants to revoke any federal funding for Columbia University. Again, totally fine with that. You can take your funding and get the fuck out of here. Revoke the student visas of those who are brazenly endorsing terrorism. That's insane, because what about the Americans? You're only going to take away the foreigners? Absolutely not, number one.
I'm sorry, I thought this was America.
Right? And then she also wants to publish the findings of the Title VI investigation into Columbia following the October 7th attack.
I am altering the deal. Pray I don't alter it any further.
Of which, how many IDF soldiers murdered Israeli citizens? Oh, right. No, we can't talk about that. Or all the stuff that's been debunked about Zaka that told lies about cutting and raping heads. Ridiculous. Nonsense. Okay. So, possible resource is a timeline, though it's, of course, by Fox. And he says, I first recall, he's got a little thing, a footnote there. But again, subscribe to Sam Husseini, Husseini.substack.com, doing absolute yeoman's work. Okay, fuck. Google is over here on Rumble, and where is everybody over on Rumble? Hope you're out there doing well. Rumble, kick ass. He can't chat now, but that's okay. We're just happy you're here listening, and we're gonna be going for a while, so you're welcome to hang with us. Now, part of this story is this is something I never thought I would see. Snipers on the roof. Snipers? If you if you literally went to Twitter and in the search bar typed university snipers, you would get an entire treasure trove today of images that looked like this. Sniper on the roof at IMU, that's Indiana Morehouse University. Absolutely unhinged response to a non-violent encampment by a murderous and paranoid police state. All these people that are saying that it's murderous and violent, there's been zero violence from the protesters. The only violence has been from the police and from the Zionists that are trying to stoke violence in order to promote this narrative that there is violence. It's only coming from them.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, how about this? Wait, what? Day 3 of snipers at Indiana University with admin escort for the Gaza encampment. Enemy spotted. Wait, what? Yep. Image description, hashtag alt text Palestine. 2 snipers dressed in camo with massive heavy backpacks and sniper rifles sticking out the top walk through a building at Indiana University, escorted by a member of university administration.
Wow, incredible.
Hey, how about that? So, hey, look at that. Ohio State getting in on it. But wait a minute. Joe Loria retweets this from Trita Parsi. And who's Trita Parsi? They are the executive VP from the Quincy Institute, author of Losing an Enemy and Treacherous Alliance, right? This is Ohio State University tonight. Back in November, Biden officials predicted that the outrage over Israel's slaughter in Gaza would fizzle out in a few weeks. Is that working out?
Media.
Nice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Very peaceful. Very peaceful. Thank you. Thank you, officers. Much appreciated. But of course, our favorite app that might be going away sooner rather than later, we'll see. TikTok. Here's another one from OSU, where they were literally fucking doing what? Praying.
Tic-tac-toe. A winner.
That's what the students are doing. They're holding the cops back. And that's got 1.9 million views on likes on TikTok. The kids are all right. That's all I can say. Don't worry, everybody. A spokesman for Ohio State University said that there were no snipers overlooking protesters. Don't believe your lying eyes. Those are cameramen. Cameramen.
I love how it's in front of the Union. Ohio Union.
Unity.
And we talked about Emory University earlier. Emory University professor Caroline Folan at a pro-Palestine demo on campus on Thursday. She was seen questioning a police officer who was arresting a protester before she was thrown to the ground and cuffed. Yes, and they're happy to.
You people are fascists.
Fight you, Jen, right away.
You are happy dogs. Shame on you. May you never live another day.
Jesus.
Every professor, everyone. You are rabid dogs. You are fascists.
It was a peaceful protest until they started fighting troopers.
So they what? Until you started trying to move the line? Until you started trying to infiltrate their shit and attacking students? What?
French fried when you shoot a pizza.
I'm going to share this.
Shout out to Middle East Eye for the footage. Give them a follow. And we're gonna read. We got some more Middle East Eye coming up. They're doing excellent coverage. Here's a little bit of levity in between because we had some earlier with Laura Kay, and that was pretty heavy stuff. Before we do, let's go check on chat and see how everybody's doing. Ooh, heavy shit. Welcome to those on INN, Twitch, Indian INN over on the YouTubes, Rockfins, Rumbles. We got everybody in the house. This is so cool. I love you all. Thank you. Yes. Yeah, Bad Cookies. Look at it fizzle. Can't agree more. You know what? Let me switch to this view. The chats go up better. Gamer, those cops are evil. I have hard time arguing with you on that one. You know, at KYE, piggies be piggin'. Yeah, it's gross. It's disgraceful. Band practice, yes.
Serenity now!
Serenity now! Kent State is inevitable. Repeat. You know, it's funny. We started actually with Jesse Jett's Kent State Engage tonight in the pre-show music. St. David's, if that was in Venezuela, the West would scream, human rights, human rights. You're absolutely right. 100% there. All right. Right. Anna, unity. She heard Richie. Love me some Richie. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. She got a wake up call. She sure did. Of course, that was IDF approved, right? Because that's who trains them. Yeah. Look at that big, strong man wrestling the tough economics professor to the ground.
I've fallen and I can't get up.
St. David's on the Rumble. Oh, it says that I'm surprised everyone else is surprised that they act like this. Well, we're not necessarily surprised. Yeah. It just sucks to see. And, you know, they're standing their ground. And, you know, Angel says private universities are ordering police to clear out these protests, and the police are gladly listening because they love kicking people's asses. Yep. And they don't serve us, of course. They serve power. Anna says that none of them have sons or daughters or family. Well, definitely not Ivy League universities because most of them can't afford it. Right.
Afford it.
You know, right. David it says it. I haven't seen any aggressive behavior by any protester, and the cops are acting like psychos. Agreed. How many cops does it take to arrest a suburban mob? I watched the cops wrestle a guy to the ground and like hog tie him and then lift him up by his arm, like the loop of his arm and the loop of his leg. And the guy's going, ow, 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 you're hurting me. And the guy, like, there's a whole thread of people laughing at him. I'm like, dude, I'll carry you like that. And you tell me that he didn't just dislocate your fucking shoulder and you tell me you're not screaming. What's the matter with you people tonight? Like, what the hell, man? Like, period. Like, seriously, people are losing their fucking humanity over this shit. Yeah, we've got.
Look at the gaslight.
I told you we've got the unity sound in the soundboard that Reef was going to pull it out, and we were going to do that. I got another Richie tweet later on that we can use, but holy shit. Mastermind. So want to shout out Mastermind Hour, RBN Long Beach Inland Hour, or whatever they're moving. I know CJ's got to move, and that sucks, unfortunately. And but RBN Long Beach is becoming RBN Inland Empire. Mastermind Hour does a show over there. I also shouted out Angel Rivera. Angel is a member of Indie News Network, INN. Hook us up over there if you can with some Cash App, Patreon, Rumble, Rockfin, however you can, if you want, if you're able. Really appreciate that. Angel's doing Angel in the Afternoon on Fridays, 7 o'clock on INN, and then Saturdays he's doing a wrestling show with Miss Witchy Perfect, and it looks like he's doing Greg and Deconstructing Topics is joining, a whole cast of characters, and they're having a great time, and they're talking about new stuff, old stuff, AEW, WWE. If you're into wrestling at all, definitely check that stuff out. And then Snow Himbo. And then also Snow Himbo. He did a kick-ass gaming stream last night, over 2.5 hours. He figured out his connectivity issues. It worked like a charm. He had an absolute play. He's like, dude, we're doing this again next week. I can't even pronounce it, but it was like an RPG where he had Rasputin or somebody as his sidekick and giving him advice. He was like, this is the coolest shit ever. So definitely check that out as well. Saturday, Saturday nights on INN are a lot of fun, because Friday night we also do the Jesse clip show that I assemble a greatest hits of Jesse clips and songs and spoken word, and stitch them together and run them as a show. Last Friday was an hour and a half, and it was just, everyone in chat had so much fun. So we'd love for you to join us every Friday night, 10:30 Eastern for that. I'm doing plugs. I got to do plugs. There's the donate links, and everyone who we love, because you guys hook us up and we love you for it. All right. Hamilton Nolan. College is an education in bullshit, because the value of universities is revealing how they themselves suck. Interesting, right? So we've got a stop learning and return to class, thanks to Getty Images. Right? The nicest thing,
image is just,
yeah.
Like his Billy Club is in an inopportune position.
Yeah, no, hey, I didn't do that. Family show. The nicest thing that can be said about college as an institution is that it gives the kids able to afford it an appropriately sheltered place to live out their prime criminal years in an environment where they will not be as harshly prosecuted for their various youthful hijinks as they would be if they were not in college. That is a whopper of a sentence. And you want to talk about privilege.
I thought college was where you just went and had fun for a while and then did the triple Indy at the end.
That is privilege in one sentence right there.
Yeah.
All right. The not nice thing that can be said about colleges is that as an institution, at least as it exists in America, is that it is one of the most distilled expressions of the rot at the heart of how this country chooses to function. Take a public good, higher education, have Republicans choke its public financing, Democrats too, privatize it, make the ability of people to have a decent life dependent on buying it, and then run it like a business in the sense of creating lavish tiers for very rich customers and inflating prices to extortionate levels and attacking labor and climbing happily into bed with some of the most sociopathic billionaires the world has ever produced. Again, grifters. Just as many Democrats as Republicans. Sorry, not sorry.
They're kind of grifters.
But then they'll turn around and call podcasters grifters.
Yeah.
While there are legitimately important stories to be told about elite colleges and universities, in particular their sly inclusion in the class war in the form of the adjunctification of their faculty and the way that they function to groom a superficially diverse cast of young people for their roles as the next generation of class war overseers at McKinsey and Wall Street and the halls of politics. Those are not the stories that most cultural commentators like them to tell them about. I'm sorry. Those are not the stories that most cultural commentators like to tell about them. That changes the meaning a little bit. Instead, we get an obsessive and frankly bizarre focus on the rhetorical and political fashion choices of a bunch of 20-year-olds who are held up as the collective children of Omellas that all of society can come together to crucify so that sad adults can feel better about themselves.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Well, this weird tick, which pervades the media like an infectious disease, means that college does serve one more useful function. If you listen to people talk about it, you can very quickly tell who's not worth listening to at all. Again, Hamilton Nolan, how things work. It's very easy to be annoyed by college kids. After all, they're young and healthy and have their whole lives ahead of them, and the rest of us have already chosen our dreary paths, which we regret. Speak for yourself. Arithmetic tells you that college students have not had as many years to learn things as older people have had, so sometimes they act with brashness and overconfidence of youth. This is trivial observation about the nature of the human lifespan. It's not a weighty subject for political commentary. To the extent that any writer or politician or intellectual treats it as a matter that rises to the level of public importance, or more absurdly, that reflects some new sociological trend that's not been present for the last several thousand years, the commentator in question is at best a fool and at worst a fraud. If you were to take the 500 members of the U.S. media who talk about college campuses the most and cast them all into the sea, the overall quality of our national discourse would rise significantly, because at least it would contain a lower amount of pure goading distraction. And there certainly is one group that is focused on controlling the narrative at college campuses through the media. The other group is focused on controlling the narrative at college campuses through administration and law and rules and committee. But it's bipartisan. College campuses are little bubbles that exist outside of the quote-unquote real world. That is, of course, how they are designed. Getting mad at college kids for this fact, in the form of criticizing them for being sheltered, is sort of an upscale version of getting mad at prison inmates for being in prison. We put them there. That's where they are. What else are they supposed to do? Political protests on college campuses are set pieces, yes, but that's a very deliberate result that was engineered not by college students, but by their institutions. To whatever extent college kids are able to break out of the comfortable trap of campus activism and connect their protests to the wider world, I salute them. As should we all. He's very smart, for sure. Sometimes he's a little opportunistic and optimistic, but not opportunistic, but blindly optimistic. And a little blind, in my opinion, or romanticized about how labor is actually in this country and how it works. Seen from this perspective, the protest encampments in support of Gaza that are sweeping elite college campuses across the nation and being ruthlessly crushed by riot cops at the same rate, as we just saw, are valuable arenas of public education, more valuable than anything these kids will learn in the classroom. That's one of the reasons I brought this article, because I love what he wrote right there. Those protest encampments and what they're learning, and the solidarity and what they're learning from culturally from the people that they're sitting around, that's an education. It's more valuable than what they're learning in the classroom, and I totally agree with him there, and why I brought this. These experiences will teach these kids some of the most important truths that they will need to know to accurately assess the way that America operates. That the polished people in charge of things are often merciless dictators at heart. That awful atrocities will be tolerated as soon as they can be ignored, and that 1 millimeter beneath the smile of the boss lurks gritted teeth and a determination to call the cops to break your head open if you don't listen.
Yeah.
To have young people set out to protest the deaths of tens of thousands of civilians and then be met by hysterical repression from the same institutions that have been tasked with making them good citizens is one of the best lessons I can imagine. It's an act of wiping off the makeup to reveal the pig beneath. We wouldn't want that pig to be concealed forever, would we? Just as important as the tear gas and the billy clubs and the administrations canceling their graduation ceremonies are the words of those condemning the college kids for doing all of this. All of those words, from the somber cable news hosts pretending to fret about chaos with their $1 million paychecks, from the insincere lobbyists trying to smear human rights as anti-Semitism from their $1 million paychecks, from the once friendly politicians afraid to embrace obvious moral judgments due to the naked demands of empire, thanks to the paychecks coming from APAC and other institutions like super PACs, from the university administrators who turn from gentle friends to militant gremlins when the invisible line into actual disruption is crossed. Reveal the contours of the bullshit that envelops all of this. We send kids to college to learn, but not to understand. To become independent, but not independent-minded. To become responsible, so long as that sense of responsibility does not extend to everyone else in the world. Sometimes something so bad happens that it causes an uprising that breaks the whole facade. Vietnam was that for my parents' generation, and Gaza is that now. And there will be other things to come. People who think that this is all wrong just show that they have never really understood what education is in the first place. Education is vital. College is dumb. A fabulously expensive ticket to the middle class that's lorded over by middle managers who love giving speeches in goofy gowns and take their orders from hedge fund managers who suck their fortunes out of the year-olds declaring themselves the king of the world, like 2-year-olds. Out of the pockets of the working class, I missed the line, out of the pockets of working class and splash their names on campus buildings like 2-year-olds declaring themselves king of the world. Mark Zuckerberg. The ability to make a good living in the higher ed industry is inversely proportional to the amount that you actually give a shit about education. Universities are at best a grand soaring ground that divides those who can and cannot see through this bullshit. I'm sorry that a lot of kids may get kicked in the teeth in the coming weeks to learn this, but the adults who aren't smart enough to see that the kids are right are a much, much greater tragedy. And unfortunately, they call themselves the adults in the room, and those are the ones that are running the fucking country. As Misty Winston famously said,
we're fucked.
Yep. So Hamilton is an independent journalist, of course. He also writes with In These Times magazine, as well as others. He publishes op-eds and bylines. Really big fan. Don't always agree with him. He wrote an article that infuriated me about how you talk to Trump and how you would interview Trump, which is, of course, how Trump would never sit for an interview, and he would never sit for that. That you make him uncomfortable and you sweat and you bully him and you treat him like he treats everybody, except he would never sit for that. He'd just get up and walk out, and we all know that. Oh, okay. Cheese Slice is here. Oh, Cheese Slice of life. What's up? That pic of AOC and LB is so wrong. Who's LB? Am I missing that?
Not sure.
Yeah, so Mastermind is saying that game was cool as fuck. I was half watching and it looked like it was a good time. All right. Adam Mayer saying it's gonna get ugly, yo. These kids have equal rage and less to lose because they'll be here way after we're gone. She ain't lying there. Rasputin, that's very funny. Ha ha ha. No Himbo's cards need music. I don't know what that means, but we can fix that, I'm sure. Boats is coming soon. Yes, we are going to have boats coming up at around midnight, probably an hour from now. We got some more stuff to show and some more things to go through, and oh my goodness. It's graduation season too, as Gamer so eloquently points out, and as Hamilton did, and they're starting to cancel graduation ceremonies. Why? Because they're afraid of what these students are going to say on stage, and they can't stop them. So they're literally just canceling the fucking ceremonies. It's unreal, and it's completely not a surprise at all. Again, if you can hook up Jesse Jett, ko-fi.com/Indie News Network, that goes right to a PayPal account that is set up exclusively for Jesse's new equipment. He needs a new laptop bad, man. We really appreciate it. Any help that you can give us. Driving Me Macy went to tech school, but they wanted the smart ones for the job, so they got a piece of paper with their name on it. Oh, come on. Come on. We love you, Macy. Yep. So, DJ Comatose, welcome. We got, so many people. This is awesome. Anna said it, that Sabby said it, but can't remember on the other side of the AOC. Oh, his name is Ed Markey.
Mm-hmm.
Ed Markey, he's a former representative from Massachusetts, now a senator. He beat out RFK's nephew, Joe, for the Democratic primary, and he won the seat, and he'll probably be senator for the next 50 years because they don't change senators. It's pretty pathetic and disgraceful. Fred Edward, welcome. And I see the bird, RIP your bird. All right. What do we have next? This is really going to get heavy, folks. I'm just warning you now. Trigger warning, content warning. This is going to be about Rafah and what they plan to do. But we're going to start with my brother Rich. Quote, my ancestors lived here 3,000 years ago, so that means I've got a license to kill and take my land by force. Zero proof needed. That's what the Israeli says, of course. The Palestinian says, this is my house. Me, my grandparents, great-grandparents, all grew up here. They have to go to a refugee camp. Don't fight back or you're a terrorist. Just keep in mind that this is the framing that this is all coming from. This is Rafah that the IOF is preparing to enter. And these small squares are the tents of the displaced Palestinians. They're housing more than 1 million Israeli displaced Palestinians. The reality on the ground is much worse than it looks from above. And I've got more. I haven't made it through this one yet. Okay. This is a child who recognizes his father. Don't turn away. This is why they're protesting. It's not about Judaism. It's about this. It's about this. And it's about to get much worse. This is from the Cradle. 3 days ago. Egypt holds secret intel meeting with Israel on Rafah. They have been briefed on and is involved in Israeli plans to evacuate Rafah citizens into Khan Yunis, which they haven't fucking stopped bombing. And they destroyed the hospital. And oh yeah, they just bulldozed the hospital and found bodies that were handcuffed.
Mm-hmm. Yep, we covered
Don't turn
that.
away. Don't turn away. You better fucking look, because this is being done in our names, folks. I can't go into reader mode. Okay. Top Israeli and Egyptian officials held a secret meeting in Cairo on 24th April, aimed at discussing Tel Aviv's plans for an invasion of Gaza's southernmost city in Rafah. Three senior Israeli officials told Axios on Wednesday that Shin Bet chief Ronan Bar and Israeli army chief Herzi Halevi met with the head of the Egyptian intelligence Abbas Kamel and Egypt's army chief Osama Askar. The report came the same day that an Israeli defense official said that Israel will launch the operation in Rafah as soon as it gets government approval. Israel is moving ahead with the operation, a spokesman for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said, but gave no specific time frame. They better bring this fucker up on charges with the ICC, like now, today.
Not that that will do anything.
ICJ charges, genocide, murder, right now.
Yeah, they already, technically already did. They were supposed to wait for a month and then get stuff back. That hasn't happened at all. Like, that thing doesn't have any power. It has some, but it's mainly like, like symbolic in nature, mainly.
Israel is developing a plan to evacuate civilians from the desperately overcrowded city. Egypt has expressed concern over the possibility of an influx of Palestinian refugees entering its territory once Rafah has attacked, and has vowed not to allow any mass displacement of Gazans into its Sinai desert, which is what Bibi's plan has been the entire time. We've reported on that since October.
Entire time.
Push them into the Sinai. Now, Egypt has already built a barrier 1.5 miles in, basically accounting for this. The IMF has already said that they're willing to wipe out and forgive debt from Egypt if they're willing to accept them. It's only a matter of time. This is all positioning, posturing, and narrative bullshit. That's what's going to happen to these people. The ones who aren't exterminated by the bombs that hit Rafah and Khan Yunis. After they have to run, they ran all the way for their lives down to Rafah, and now they're going to be bombed out of Rafah back to Khan Yunis. Washington has repeatedly called on Israel to ensure the safe evacuation of civilians from Rafah, where military operations pose the threat of severe humanitarian catastrophe. Quote, everyone is waiting for Netanyahu's directive to start evacuating the civilian population from Rafah. It's parked at his desk. He needs to resolve the matter with both the Americans and the Egyptians, unquote, one of the Israeli officials told Axios. Oh, he's got a plan to resolve the matter. U.S. and Israeli officials held a virtual meeting last week to discuss plans for Rafah. I hope they're not the same kind of plans that they had for Gaza. Originally, waterfront property that they're already selling and bulldozing and using the bones and the buildings from the destroyed buildings that they blew up in order to build the new ones. Gross. U.S. and Israeli officials, like we said, held a virtual meeting. The decision to launch the operation is conditions-based and not time-based and connected to the humanitarian situation on the ground. Tel Aviv emphasized to Washington during the meeting, according, of course, to the U.S. officials. Yeah, by the way, Tel Aviv burned down another big storage warehouse of all of the UN humanitarian supplies that are actually coming in. They're being bombed. The Wall Street Journal reported on April 23rd, citing Egyptian officials, that Israel's evacuation plans for Rafah are near complete. The plan will take 2 to 3 weeks and will be carried out in cooperation with Washington, Cairo, and other Arab states, including the UAE. If they don't just bomb the whole fucking place, which is my guessing what they're actually going to do. Egyptian forces have been deployed in the northern Sinai and along the Gaza border and are at, quote, full readiness. I don't see any potential of a shooting solution starting there right now. After being briefed by Israel on plans for Rafah. Al Arabi Al Jadid reported on April 18th. Oh, got a super chat out of Willie Bragg. Thank you. Calling those anti-Semitic for criticizing Israel would be like calling people Islamophobic for criticizing Saudi Arabia for what they did to Yemen. Yes. Thank you, Willie. Thanks for super chat. Appreciate that. Israel's evacuation plan involves moving Rafah's civilian population upwards towards the southern city of Khan Yunis, as well as other areas of the Strip, the report states, adding that shelters with tents, food supplies, and medical facilities will be set up. So they're not even prepared for this now. Recently published satellite images show a large tent compound in Khan Yunis and Israeli troop gatherings at army bases and outposts near the Strip, signaling that the invasion of Rafah may be imminent. But they're not the only ones that are predicting this. But just in case you had any question as to what their plans might actually be, here's their defense minister, Bezalel Smotrich, another piece of shit. Far-right minister condemns indirect negotiations with Hamas and calls for their assassination across the globe. He calls for a complete destruction of Gaza instead of truce talks. Just in case anybody has any questions as to what Israel is planning to do and says they want peace, and if Hamas laid their weapons down, then Israel would too. No, they wouldn't. That is a lie, and you are perpetrating propaganda. And again, I said Middle East Eye.
Photo. And that photo looks like he's using those kids as human shields. Why would he use Jewish kids as shields like that? That's terrible. Don't do that.
I think those are his kids, maybe. But
yes, Ian.
Bezalel Smotrich calls for the complete destruction of the Gaza Strip as he hit out truce talks between the government and Hamas. And again, this was on April 26th. This is 2 days ago. This is not like months and years and ages ago. This is 2 days ago. This is what they want. This is 7.5 months after murdering an entire generation. Displacing, surgeries without fucking anesthesia, amputations, jailing thousands after murdering tens of thousands and injuring and Tell me how religion is so great, folks. But this isn't really being done in the name of religion, we know. This is being done in the name of land theft and resource theft. Writing on X, formerly known as Twitter, of course, we will always call it Twitter, Smotrich said negotiating with Hamas was irresponsible and members of the group should be killed instead. And of course, that's allowed on Twitter because Israelis and Zionists are allowed to say whatever they want. Quote, the time has come for the Mossad to return to doing what it was trained to do, to eliminate the heads of Hamas all over the world and not in negotiations that are conducted irresponsibly and harm Israel's security. No, Mossad's a little busy infiltrating college campuses and spraying skunk on students all over the country. Like at Columbia. Yep. Oh yeah, that happened 3 weeks before any of this shit, by the way. People don't remember that that was one of the escalations that happened on that campus that led to these people camping out and protesting.
Yep.
Smotrich says that with Hamas from now on, we should only talk with shells and bombs. He said Israel needed to attack Rafah as fast and strongly as possible, then continue with the strip until its complete destruction. So tell me how they want a two-state solution. Tell me how they're willing to negotiate and come to the table. Tell me how peaceful these people are. Give me a break.
Look at the gaslights.
Not only that, they're claiming to represent Jews worldwide, and it's a disgrace. They don't speak for me. They don't speak for a lot of Jews, thankfully. No, not tonight. Israeli media reported on Wednesday that a ground invasion of southern Rafah appeared imminent. Preparations being put in place to expel tens of thousands of displaced Palestinians who are crowded into the city already. The incursion into Rafah, where 1 million displaced Palestinians are sheltering in tents and makeshift camps, will happen very soon, according to a report in the newspaper Israel Hayom. That means today, by the way.
someone remembers their Torah lessons.
Yeah, somebody went to Hebrew school. Somebody was bar mitzvah. Somebody takes his kids to fucking temple still, and somebody was fucking put on tefillin at the wall, all right? I'm not a fucking guy that doesn't know what the hell I'm talking about here. This is bullshit.
Sometimes it may be good, sometimes it may be shit.
No, it's always shit. Secular states should not exist. Fight me.
My man.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office and an Israeli military spokesman's office did not immediately comment on the reports. Surprise, surprise. Israeli sources told Reuters on Wednesday that Israel had procured tens of thousands of tents to evacuate Palestinian civilians from Rafah over the coming weeks. Yeah, thanks for that. After you fucking blew up their houses, why? Why? They escalated? Mm-hmm. Palestinians have said that nowhere is safe from Israeli bombardment in the besieged Gaza Strip since since their bombardment on Gaza. It's not even a war on Gaza. It's an assault on Gaza. It's a destruction. It's a massacre on Gaza. It began in October. It's an ethnic cleansing in Gaza.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
The Israeli military has consistently bombed so-called safe zones after it told Palestinians to evacuate. Of course it has. And then they turn around and say that Hamas is shooting them. Huh? Fuck you.
Stop fucking lying.
That's right. More than 34,300 Palestinians, and we know that number stopped really counting in December, so a lot more than that are dead.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly women and children have been killed. Over 77,000 have been wounded in Israel's military campaign since October. Middle East Eye is calling it as they see it, and I support them. And I also support Indie Media Award honoree Mondo Weiss. Big time. Mitchell Plitnick lays it out. And just reading this headline just made me... made me want to cry. The Rafah invasion will be catastrophic. The impending Rafah invasion will be even worse than anything we've seen so far, and the U.S. is just going to watch it happen. Support Mondo Weiss. Support independent media. We need it more than ever. Here's another shot of some of the camps. APA images. Look at it, everyone.
Doesn't that look like
we did this?
Perfect.
We're doing this.
Condo real estate for Israel. I mean, it must be.
It will be after they clear them out, because that's their plan.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And if there was a, native burial grounds are not where you should be building your skyrise apartments. I'm just saying. But
with the page seeming to have at least temporarily turned on a direct confrontation between Israel and Iran, the promised Israeli invasion of Rafah is once again looming large. On Friday, like we said, a high-level Egyptian delegation arrived in Israel to continue attempts to negotiate a ceasefire as Cairo's fears of a large exodus of Palestinians from Gaza into the Sinai have been renewed. Chances of success are dim, to say the least, of course. According to reports, Egypt's strategy is to try to first negotiate a release of some of the Israeli hostages still being held in Gaza in exchange for the release of Palestinian prisoners held by Israel, even though we know they'll never do that, or only at a 10-to-1 rate, at least. Another temporary pause in Israeli assaults, which is bullshit too, which they don't really temporary pause ever, and an Israeli agreement to allow people to return to the areas they fled in the northern part of Gaza, before they bomb them again, of course.
Go back to your country.
The idea is that if this agreement holds, it will delay the invasion of Rafah and hopefully lead to a permanent ceasefire.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Israel has set up thousands of tents at the Hall of Injustice. Israel has set up thousands of tents a few miles north of Rafah, to which they propose to evacuate, quote-unquote, people ahead of their invasion. But let's be clear, this is not a humanitarian gesture, as Joe Biden and other American officials would present it. Israel isn't intending an evacuation. It's the forced displacement of people who have already been forcibly displaced, many of them multiple times, and in flagrant violation of international humanitarian law, of which Israel is responsible for every single one of these people because they don't allow them a fully functioning government. They don't allow them to have freedom of movement. They don't allow them to have passports. They don't allow them to have electricity or clean running water, which all of those things are required by their UN charter. So why isn't that being revoked? We know why. Egypt, quite understandably, of course, is trying to prevent an attack on Rafah that's likely to force even more Palestinians across the border. Yeah, but it's also going to murder most of the people that are there.
Mm-hmm.
Since October, between 80 and 100,000 Palestinians have already fled Gaza into Egypt, according to the Palestinian Authority's ambassador to Egypt, Diab Alou. And I don't know how much I would necessarily believe the Palestinian Authority at this point, honestly. Because I have not heard very much out of them these last 6 months, 7 months. And we know that West Bank has been heavily attacked. They've been awfully quiet in comparison. All right. It's worth noting that many of those who've gotten out are in some way privileged, either because they have connections that could help them get out, or they had the means to pay some of the profiteers circling around Gaza and squeezing large sums of money out of desperate people. Gross. Most people in Gaza don't have such means, of course, which makes Egypt even more reluctant to see them across the border. Since the first brief pause in fighting when Hamas released 105 of the Israeli and foreign national hostages that it had kidnapped, ceasefire talks have been little more than political theater. Neither Israel nor Hamas is willing to concede what the other side is demanding as a minimum. Israel uses the hostages as rhetorical devices, but has been uninterested in stopping the slaughter in Gaza. Hamas, for its part, is unwilling to settle for less than an end to Israel's campaign, although it's willing to release a limited number of hostages in a prisoner exchange if Israel will allow Palestinians to return to their homes in the north, which Israel has been reluctant to do.
Funny that.
Ending the massacres in Gaza is the one and only thing that brings the hostages home. Israel and its supporters are uninterested in paying that price.
They've also been uninterested in getting the hostages back at all, practically.
Correct.
You know,
periodically
they've been filling tunnels with cement and water. Like, they don't care.
You can turn off the fish.
You know, it's Israeli. Sure. It's Israeli hostages that, like, they tend to be really leery of Israel coming to save them because they're usually not there to save them, you know. So, yeah, I mean, it's just bullshit everywhere.
But periodically, talks are broken down and each side blames the other, but the reality is that there's little room for an agreement. Hamas has no reason to agree to anything less than an end to Israel's operations in Gaza. All Israel's offered is a short delay in its genocidal operation. The government of Benjamin Netanyahu has vowed to eliminate Hamas, a goal that is and always was impossible. And if you watch our coverage from a couple of weeks ago, there was a threat intelligence report to the president from the Defense Department that said, you're never getting rid of Hamas, ever. And not only that, you just created an entire new generation of Hamas by what you've done right here.
Mm-hmm.
While Israel and its supporters talk a great deal about the release of the hostages, they already have seen that ending the massacres in Gaza is the one and only thing that brings the hostages home, and they're uninterested in paying that price. Their crocodile tears for the hostages are playing increasingly thin with the hostages' families and large portions of the Israeli public who are seeing through this bullshit. Hamas's insistence that Palestinians be allowed to return to the areas of the north from which they have been driven out is more practical, but that too will yield little in terms of relieving the plight of Gaza. Israeli forces have left very little standing in the areas from which Palestinians were forced out, and the north is a virtual wasteland where food and water are even scarcer than they are in Rafah. Except for down at the waterfront, where the trucks are building God only knows what right now on behalf of Israel and the Kushners who are invested in this. And they sold the land in Teaneck, New Jersey, and Toronto recently. Gross. This all means that if Egypt succeeds in finding an agreement on a delay in Israel's invasion of Rafah, all it will do is delay the inevitable because there is no common ground to unearth between Israel and Hamas on a permanent agreement. Ultimately, it comes down to the fact that Israel simply doesn't want one because a permanent agreement means an end to the military operations and actions by both sides. Well, there is no military action on Hamas's side because they're not a military. For Netanyahu, that means that if all the rest of the hostages die, even if the entire Middle East becomes more unstable, even if the conflict widens, so be it. And then we've got, of course, the Hasbara offensive. What is Hasbara? Reef, can you lay out for the folks who don't know and are not on Twitter what Hasbara is?
I mean, from my understanding, it's Israel propaganda arm. Pretty much.
Yep.
I mean, any other details we need in that?
It's basically, yes. Well, I think that it's the actual meaning is something very different, but the way it's been used is this is their lying propaganda that regularly gets debunked. But the thing is that you have to spend time debunking it, and at the moment it comes out, enough people believe it, and then don't hear the debunk, that's the narrative they now believe and go with going forward.
I mean, it means explaining, right? In Hebrew?
I believe so. In fact, Israel, with the aid of governments at all levels in both the United States and Europe, is desperately trying to use this period before they invade Rafah to shore up their support around the world. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his supporters in Congress from both parties, like we said, this is bipartisan, have scrambled to defend Israel using the now blunted weapon of characterizing protest against Israeli genocide as antiseptic. Yes.
Yeah,
gross.
So Hasbara also means to justify. So
right.
Whether or not things are justified. That's what it's supposedly explaining. So rationalizing genocide.
I also want to state here that there are as many Christian Zionists as there are Jewish Zionist supporters of Israel for a totally different reason. But their needs, their interests align, and they're not going to tell the Jewish Zionists exactly why they really believe it. I mean, I think they kind of know anyway, but and they think that that's like kind of believing in Santa Claus, which so's the whole fucking thing, guys.
Mm-hmm.
The desperation has been apparent in the quick turn to police violence to try to quell student protests. 10 soldiers in Nixon coming. I believe you put up a tweet like that. Actions which have only served to spur more students and others across the United States to join in solidarity with the people of Gaza. I believe Laura Kay said that earlier.
This summer, I hear the drumming.
What better way to get people on the side of Israel than to beat up college students into liking Israel? It's notable how much faster the police turn to It's notable how much faster the turn to police violence has been this time around as compared to protests against the Iraq War or even the Vietnam War, where demonstrations on campuses had been going on for 2 years before police began using violence in 1967 at the University of Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
Since the exchange of fire between Israel and Iran, Netanyahu has been hoping to recapture the false narrative that portrays Israel as a small country under siege. Others have gone even further, reviving and updating old red baiting tactics by calling protesters agents of Hamas or of Iran. I think we get called that daily at this point.
Yeah.
This Hasbara offensive is meant to shore up support before the attack on Rafah, which is certain to be a calamity even by the standards of Israel's actions in Gaza for the past 6 months, but it faces obstacles. The ongoing recovery of more and more bodies and mass graves in areas that Israel has moved on from in Gaza remains in the news, even though the shaded coverage of the campus protests is an open attempt to drown it out. Israel, of course, called the claims of mass graves and their soldiers used to dump Palestinian bodies into baseless, but they're clearly anything but, because Hamas certainly has the ability to first zip tie handcuff doctors behind their backs and then blow up the hospital that they're working in. Oh no, that was Israel that did that, and we watched them do it.
Yeah.
Yet Israel, after that one statement, has done little so far to try to refute the facts. Instead, they are apparently hoping that driving up hysteria across raging anti-Semitism on college campuses, as we've seen the Karens out in full force today on Twitter, will do that work for them. The Biden administration, too. Go ahead.
What's the Jewish version of Karen? You know?
Well, I saw today Zarin said was coming out pretty solid, and oof, that was pretty brutal. Mastermind Hour, thank you for reinforcing there are actually more Christian Zionists than there are Jews in all of the world. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And what do they believe? They believe that the Jews have to be in charge of Israel for Jesus to come back, and that all the Jews that don't convert to Christianity at that point will burn in hell. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
Appreciate being the pawn in your little game, everybody. All right. The Biden administration, too, of course, is trying to help. Biden himself baselessly and absurdly called the protests antiseptic. Never mind the outsized Jewish presence there. It is the latest in a long line of conventions and gaslights from both Biden and Netanyahu that simply fly in the face of obvious facts, but which have served for the past 6 months to maintain just enough support for Israel's genocide, especially from the wealthy donor side, to keep it going and make sure that centers of power remain disciplined in their support for Israel.
Look at the gaslight.
Thank you. That's what I was looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the gaslight. With at least some parts of the mainstream media fully supporting the deception that the campus protests are antiseptic, Israel may well believe that despite the ongoing negative public opinion, the atmosphere for a Rafah invasion is as good as it is likely to get in the foreseeable future. Wow. There are numerous signals that the invasion is imminent. Israel has called up reserves and publicly stated they're preparing for an attack. They've warned the Egyptians that the current round of talks is the last chance for an agreement before an invasion, and Antony Blinken is due in Israel this coming week.
Son of a bitch!
In the past, Israel has taken action very shortly after Blinken's visits, because we all know who he serves.
Yeah.
I believe you covered that on INN News as well.
Oh, no.
While the Biden administration maintains its public posture that they're trying to convince Israel to pursue alternative methods of eliminating Hamas, the recent approval of a huge amount of military aid to Israel shows where Biden's support is actually going. There is no regard there for Palestinian civilians, only an attempt to convince people that there is. Netanyahu has gotten that message loud and clear. I believe $9 billion of the $95 billion that has now been appropriated for the Nazis in Ukraine and the ethnic cleansers in Israel, another $9 billion is going for humanitarian aid to the Palestinians, which we know Israel will, of course, blow up as soon as it gets into warehouses.
Yeah.
Rafah is already besieged. A city that was already crowded with 275,000 inhabitants now has over 1.4 million people crammed into it, and a heat wave is blistering the area. Nobody talks about that. Oh yeah, no air conditioning anywhere to be found, of course. Israel has continued to bomb residential areas over the past few weeks. Though few of those have made headlines in the United States, in recent days the frequency of attacks has increased. And every morning I wake up and I see, thanks to Nuno Marquez, go follow Nuno on Twitter, 18 killed, 14 children last night. 14, a whole family eliminated, their house blown up last night by Israel. Not by Hamas, by Israel. And also watch INN News' segment about Lavender AI and literally the program that's called Where's Daddy? These sick motherfuckers. They're killing, they're killing the people in their homes with their families intentionally. They're making sure they're at home and then dropping a bomb on the house to kill the entire family for generations of people. It's the most insidious. It's the most insidious shit I've ever heard. When Israel launches its attack on Rafah, the civilian death toll will be off the charts. It's inevitable, given the conditions and the massive overcrowding there. Civilians fleeing the area are also likely to be targeted by Israel, as they have been throughout the assault on the Strip. And remember, we also covered an article about how the IDF cut the Strip in half, and if you went past a certain checkpoint, you were basically just going to be cut down by the IDF.
Yeah.
Results of this will undoubtedly be felt throughout the region and around the world, and it seems very likely that an Israeli invasion will bring a response from Ansar Allah in Yemen, commonly called the Houthis, Hezbollah in Lebanon, and quite likely other militias throughout the region. Oh, not Hezbollah, Hezbollah.
Hezbollah.
Jan Eglin.
Hezbollah.
Hezbollah. Yeah. Hezbollah is the little guy. He's hilarious. He's hardcore. I wouldn't fuck with Hezbollah. He's got some fucking friends. I would definitely not fuck with his friends.
He's going to calf kick the shit out of you. I'm telling you right now.
Jan Eglin, we're almost done, of the Norwegian Refugee Council described what has already happened in Gaza. Quote, Gaza has already had a bigger bombardment than even Aleppo, even Raqqa, even Mosul. The attack on Rafah promises to be the worst of all. It seems no government, least of all the one in Washington, that has the power to stop it, is willing or able to do anything but watch it happen. And can I get another Richie wake up asshole, please? We need one.
Yeah, you can do that.
Wake up, asshole.
Because that's what we need everyone to do right now. Now,
I've said it before and I'll say it again. Democracy simply doesn't work.
I grabbed this one as well 2 days ago, and I did not see this anywhere else. People were awfully quiet about this. But Dave DeCamp, antiwar.com, both Indie Media Award honorees. Boom, boom. Oh, yeah. Check out indiemediaawards.substack.com, a list of the best of the best of the best, with all of their links for everyone. Top journalists, top outlets, top podcasters and live streamers, top video creators. They're all listed there. Dave is one of them. Hey, I love that sound. All right. This Hamas official says group is willing to disarm for two-state solution? But of course, we know that Netanyahu said that he's opposed to a Palestinian state in any future scenario. Maybe that's why Hamas agreed to it, because they knew there was no way Bibi would. But maybe, just maybe, they actually would. But a two-state solution actually means a two-state solution. Water rights, electricity rights, military rights, right of return, right of free travel, right to issue passports, right to hold elections.
Yep.
I'm going to read
just
this.
Like the kid can't be trusted with that light socket. You know, that two-state solution apparently can't be. I can't trust him with that now. You know?
Over on Facebook, John Ross, happy birthday, 35. Super happy.
You have lost. Good day, sir.
A Hamas political official has told the Associated Press that the Palestinian group would be open to a 5-year truce with Israel and would disarm and become solely a political party if a Palestinian state was established along the pre-1967 borders. Speaking in Istanbul, and we know that they'll never agree. That's a nice thought. Speaking in Istanbul, Khalil al-Hayya said Hamas would accept a fully sovereign Palestinian state in the West Bank and Gaza Strip, and the return of Palestinian refugees, as you should, in accordance with the international resolutions. He said that Hamas wants to unite with Fatah, which heads the Palestinian Authority and Palestinian Liberation Organization, to form a unified government for Gaza and the West Bank.
Great success.
I believe Yasser Arafat might have been the last person to run both Fatah and both Palestinian Authority. Mahmoud Abbas is also involved, but a lot of Palestinians don't like and trust him because he's worked heavily with the Israelis and the American government in the past.
Yep.
I don't. Oh, DJ Comatose, that's a great question, but no, I don't have the pre-67 borders right now. Anna says no two-state solution. Single state, non-secular, all equality, I agree with. But this is movement still. All right. Israel is not expected. Oh, okay. So Hamas first sent the signal last week that it might be willing to dissolve its military wing known as Al-Quds Brigades, all right, in exchange for a two-state solution. After a meeting with Hamas's political chief, Ismail Haniyeh, Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan said the Palestinian group was willing to accept those conditions. What has Israel been willing to give on exactly, other than not murdering aid workers and letting slightly more trucks come in to not starve the people of Gaza?
Supposedly some poison flour, I think they gave. That. Oh no, they shot them while they tried to get flour.
Yes, that was called the Flour Massacre. Yes. Israel is not expected to pursue any deal that would give the Palestinians a state, as Benjamin Netanyahu has made his opposition to the idea very clear. He has said he wouldn't allow a Palestinian state in any post-war scenario, and has credited himself as the person who prevented a two-state solution in the past. So he's basically admitting,
oh, brother, this guy stinks!
He's admitting to having Rabin murdered. Is that what he's basically saying?
Yeah.
Another major impediment to a two-state solution along the 67 borders is the over 500,000 Israeli settlers who are living in the West Bank right now. Settlers continue to terrorize Palestinians and drive them out of their homes, and the Netanyahu government has explicitly stated it supports settlement expansion with the ultimate goal of annexing the West Bank. And what are you going to do with the Palestinian people that are living there? Netanyahu has maintained that his goal in Gaza is to eradicate Hamas, even though both Israeli and U.S. intelligence have said that the group isn't going anywhere. Al-Hayya said that Israeli forces have not destroyed more than 20% of Hamas's capabilities, neither human nor in the field. If they can't finish Hamas off, what's the solution? The solution is to go to consensus. Yeah, all of this to eliminate less than 20% of Hamas and their capabilities. In comments to the AP, an advisor to Netanyahu dismissed Al-Hayya and Israel's goals and said that Israel's goals haven't changed, of course. His government set a mission today to destroy Hamas's military and governing capabilities in Gaza. They don't have any governing capabilities because you keep destroying them, free the hostages, which he has no intent of doing, and we've seen why, and ensure that Gaza does not pose a threat to Israel and the rest of the civilized world in the future. The advisor said those goals will be achieved. Yeah, we'll see.
Well, you know what those solutions sound like? Like maybe a final one. You know? What it sounds like to me.
Yeah. That's right.
Oh.
Kim A. Hezbollah is Israeli propaganda for the West. Okay. They don't really want to eliminate Hamas. Yes, Zombie, that's correct.
Hamas.
All right. Yeah, higher education is a money-making machine that the college admin called the cops in. Sure. Right, they pissed off the Zionist owners, definitely. And yes, I did say multiple times antiseptic. That is correct. Mad Crab, what's up, dude? Everybody check out Politically Homeless with Mad Crab and Snow Himbo Thursday nights, 9 p.m. on INN. Doing yeoman's work over there, as well as over at the Hotspot. Behind the scenes, he's also doing some stuff over at Hotspot, and I didn't bring the video today, but they went viral today with a pretty big video. Mazel tov to our friend over there on that. Nice. All right, I didn't butcher it too bad. Appreciate that. All right, I got one more story, and some of you are gonna celebrate. This is a weird one, but I look, the natives are even restless. Even the Israelis are going after their own officials.
Inconceivable!
Yes. So everyone knows that we are not fans of Ben-Gvir, Itamar. All right, he is the defense minister, I believe. No, not defense minister. He's interior minister. One of them. He's a big, high-ranking Likud official. But Mint Press had this. This was the other day. Ba-boom.
Yep.
What's that? That's his car going
Zionists
over.
smashing into other Zionists. For 1,000 hours.
Or are they? I mean, I don't know. I guess we don't need the music. I thought that there was actually descriptive text of what this was, but there he is laying on the ground. He apparently hurt his neck. They carted him off. Shout out to Mint Press.
Go back for a second. Go back for a couple of seconds. I'll tell you when. Going back. Pause. This guy who has the fit of Skyler with his White Claw at the fucking like what? You've got
I guess undercover.
Are those fucking plaid? Are those plaid fucking?
I think they're camo
cargo shorts.
I think they're camo cargo shorts.
Like, dude, I feel like he's about to try to sell you some crypto.
Anyway, the moment Israeli Minister of Security Itamar Ben-Gvir's car crashed. Video footage captures the moment it flipped over today in Al-Ramla, occupied Palestine, as well as the immediate aftermath. And there were a lot of people that were hoping that it was more serious than that. I do not wish harm on anyone. Oh, damn, is the metal polo
that metal polo K? Jesus Christ.
That's a high quality tweet right there. That's a quality reply.
Where's hold on for that? How fast can I find that one?
So let's have some democracy in the chat. Ben-Gvir will remain in hospital after breaking all of his ribs, according to the Savior. If you could say one thing to him right now, what would it be? I would like everyone who's watching live right now to let us know what you think of Itamar Ben-Gvir and how you would like him to recover or otherwise. And let's again remember, who is this guy? Remember when he pulled a gun on a Palestinian parking attendant because he wouldn't let him park on a curb.
Emotional damage.
I'm a very important person.
Congratulations. You played yourself.
What's the Israeli male version of Karen?
I feel like a Smotrich is a good one.
A Ben-Gvir?
Yeah.
This was a while back, by the way. This was not recently. Garbage. Dude is garbage. Straight fucking garbage, and he doesn't represent me and my views. Ever. Ever. Disgrace.
Still a piece of garbage.
Yes, he definitely is. All right, now. Also, recently, like April 19th, Ben-Gvir openly calls for the execution of Palestinian prisoners to ease overcrowding. Why is this abhorrence not locked up? Why are his social media accounts still allowed to exist? This is literally a genocide or somebody calling for the execution of civilians.
Yeah.
Congratulations on being the world's biggest bitch.
Ooh, that's a good one. Shmooly. But then again, I know little boys named Shmooly. I don't want to smear everybody with that name, but Shmooly Boteach certainly does.
There's some nice Karens out there, you know? Like,
I'm sure
only
there
a Sith deals in absolute.
Well, Karen.
She's an absolute.
Oh, well, Karen, I know there's a Karen that hangs out with Angel on Angel in the Afternoon once in a while. Sage Karen. She's aight. Gamer, come on, that's not very nice. Shmooly and butt plugs, what do you mean? What? Grape dildo? Hey, what? This is a family show. Oh, here's
Sorry,
someone.
children.
Just in case you thought that this was the only democracy in the Middle East, here's an Israeli woman dragged away seconds after calling him a criminal. Coming to America, near to a college campus near you soon enough. Hey, their shirt's brown. Wrong color, guys.
Sprawl.
Guys, your shirts are the wrong color.
It's underhooks. Underhooks, grab a wizard. No?
Just in case anybody believed that you were actually free to speak out against the government in Israel. All that democracy. Thank you, Cookies. Okay. What's this? Oh, that's not what I
I'm
wanted.
sorry, I thought this was America.
Okay. I'm going to let Abby Martin close us out here. I love Abby sometimes. A lot of times. I didn't like her COVID takes, but this is fucking spot on. Here we go.
That's how fascist Israeli society is. I hate when I see politicians just trying to denounce Netanyahu as some sort of aberration from Israeli society. No, this is the norm. This is the norm. Look at every single cabinet minister. Every single member of the Knesset is out there spewing genocide, advocating mass murder. It is sick. It is sick. And I will never forgive journalists who are towing this line and pretending like this is some sort of aberration of the Likudniks and Netanyahu's. No, this is Israel. This is Israel. This is a settler colonial state founded upon ethnic cleansing. And it only exists because of the continuous ethnic cleansing of the indigenous population. And you have to have indoctrination from cradle to grave, and you have to espouse the most horrific dehumanizing language possible to paint those people as barbaric human animals, to condone and tolerate those policies against these people for 75 plus years. So that's Israeli society. I saw it firsthand. And people want to paint those interviews that I did. Oh, I'm trying to do a gotcha. Oh, I'm trying to pick the most crazy sounding people. No, that's Israeli society. The left
is non-existent
like
in Israel. Ash is the rest
bombing
of her
bombing the Donbass for 9 years.
Is the rest of her sentence.
And calling people orcs, that sort of thing. Yeah,
absolutely.
Pretty bad. Well, now, Abby, the case might be that they give Ukraine to Israel. New Israel. Greater Israel. You know what Zelensky said?
Follow Tara Reade to learn all about that.
Yep.
Ellen, welcome. Good to see you. Justin loves Selena over on the Twitters. And R.I.P. to Tim. Yeah, I see. I'm with you. We love you. Gamer. Thank you, Gamer. For everyone that stuck with us tonight, this was a tough one. I know. Really appreciate you watching and sharing and doing all the things. We'll be back, I'm guessing, next Sunday night with another show, because this is what we do. Hopefully cooler heads have prevailed and we won't be further into World War III and further into seeing these people destroyed. You know what? DJ Komoto said that they sent over the map. So let me take a look at the 67 borders. Okay, here we go. Let me put this up real quick before we get out of here. Okay. So this one. This is from TRT World. So this was the 1947. The Jews got these little pockets. That was Israel. Right? Or this is right then. UN partition plan of 1947. This was Palestine, 1947. Then 1947, they gave Palestinians Gaza, and I believe that's a part of Lebanon to the north, Golan Heights, maybe. And there's that Syria. And then parts of Jerusalem. But you see much further into Jerusalem. They took away. And now this is what it is today. Gaza went from this to the strip that we have now. 5 miles wide, 25 miles long. 1.5 million people live there.
Yep.
And they're being murdered there. Please support independent media if you can. Please support INN. We love you, and we really appreciate all the support. Willie Bragg went over to my YouTube channel and dropped a super chat. Love you for that. Thank you so much. Don't know if anybody Cash Apped me. There's the Cash App down in the corner, $ Indie News Network. That will go toward the Jesse Fund. And we've got Patreon, Substack, monthly subscriptions to support the network, as well as one-time donations and monthly subscriptions over on the Rumbles.
Money, please.
IndieNews.network for all the channels, and you can get all the links right there. All right, we're gonna get to boats.
Damn good too.
Give me a few minutes to change everything over for boats, and then we will do some eye bleach. And thank you so much, really. I love you all. We need to support independent media. Thanks to Middle East Eye and Mondo Weiss and Richie Medhurst and all, Max Blumenthal, Grazo, everyone that is standing up and calling it for what it actually is, because it's so important that we have the journalists. Journalism is not a crime. Free Julian Assange. Have a good night, everyone. I love you.
Bye. Have a great time.
I think I liked it better being blind, when I couldn't read between the lines, and when I couldn't see the cracks in the structure that lay bare before me the whole time. I think I liked it better back when I suspended disbelief and swallowed pride. I thought I knew the difference in the red from the blue, but they both bleed us so dry. They both bleed us so dry.
My favorite songs don't hit the same way. I get to the end of a 4-minute track and I'm only looking back thinking, what did they actually say? So I